In this tutorial, we get to look at how we multiply matrices. First of all, as a rule, for you to be able to multiply matrices, the number of rows in the first matrix must be equal to the number of columns in the second matrix. This is Kisembo Academy, and thanks for tuning in. Let's make an illustration. When we look at these matrices, for example, these two matrices here, this is a 2 by 2 matrix. This is also a 2 by 2 matrix. But if we are to multiply these matrices, the number of rows in this matrix must be equal to the number of columns in the next matrix. Why is that so? Because in matrix multiplication, we multiply the row in the first matrix by the column in the next matrix. If we are looking at this matrix, for example, when I talk about rows, this is what I mean. This is a row, and that is also a row. Then, when I'm talking about columns, this is what I mean. This is a column, and that is also a column, like that. Let's look at this matrix too. Let's look at the rows in the first matrix. In the first matrix, if we are to look at the row has 1, 2, 3 elements. Those are the number of elements in the rows in the first matrix. Then when we get to the second matrix and we look at the columns, there are 2 columns. But how many elements are there in each of these columns? There are 3. So if you look at the first matrix, there are 3 elements in each row, and then in the second matrix it has 3 elements in each column. So it means that these 2 matrices are compatible, so we can multiply them. That is the rule. That is what you have to first ascertain before you go ahead with the multiplication. If that condition is not met, it means that the multiplication cannot happen. It means those 2 matrices are not compatible. So let's go ahead and try and multiply these matrices. Before we start using figures to do matrix multiplication, I would like to first illustrate it using this illustration using letters. We are having this matrix A, B, C, D, which is a 4 by 4 matrix, multiplying it by E, F, G, H, which is also a 4 by 4 matrix. We are multiplying these 2 matrices, but when we multiply these 2 matrices, we are supposed to get one matrix as the answer, and this matrix is supposed to be having 4 elements. That is a 2 by 2 matrix. Now, when we are multiplying matrices, we multiply the row in the first matrix by the column in the next matrix. The row in the first matrix by the column in the next matrix. So we are supposed to do it in such a way that we get these answers. These circles you're seeing here are supposed to be filled by figures, which figures are supposed to be coming from this working. So how do we determine which row we are supposed to multiply by which column? Let's look at the first circle. If you look at this circle, it is in the top row, but in the left column. This circle. If you look at this circle, it is in the top column. It is in the top row, but on the left column. If you look at this bottom circle, it is in the lower row, but on the left column. If you look at this circle, it is in the bottom column, in the bottom row, but on the right column. So this is how we are going to determine which row to multiply by which column. So for example, let's assume that we want to find this answer. What answer do we get here when we are multiplying these 2 matrices? If you look at this figure, this position here, it is in the top row and on the left hand column. So it means that when we are multiplying these matrices, we are going to multiply the top row by the left column. So it means that we are going to get to our first matrix, and we get, since it's in the top row, so it means we are going to multiply the top row by the left hand column. So it means that in this second matrix, it's the left hand column to get this answer. So that's how it comes to being A times E, which is this, plus B times G, which is that. So A times E plus B times G gives us that answer. How do we get this other answer? If you look at the position of this element, it is in the top row and on the right hand column. So it means that for us to get this answer, we need to multiply the top row, which is this one, by the left hand column, which is this one. So that is why in our working here, it is A times F, which is that one, plus B times H, which is that. And we're able to get this answer. Likewise, look at this position. This position is in the bottom row, but on this side of the column, on the left hand side of the column. So it means for us to be able to get this answer, we are supposed to use the row, the bottom row, to multiply by the bottom, the column on the left hand side, which is this one. So it is this row times that column to get this answer. So that's why it is C times E, which is this, plus D times D, which is that, to be able to get that answer. Likewise, in the last one, we are going to multiply C. If you look at this position, it is in the bottom row, but on the right hand column. So it means that for us to be able to get the answer to all the element here, we are supposed to multiply the bottom row, which is CD, by the right hand column, which is FH. So we end up with C times F, which is that, plus D times H, which is that. And we end up getting the answer there. So that is how we are going to do it when we are multiplying. That is how we multiply the row by the column in matrix multiplication. So let's go ahead and do the examples. We are having the first matrix as 9, 6, 4, 11. We are multiplying that matrix by 1, 0, 0, 1. It's going to be like this. So we are going to multiply the row by the column. So it means we are going to get this row first and multiply it by that column. So at first we shall say it is 9 times 1, the first element in the row multiplied by the first element in the column of the next matrix. So it's going to be 9 times 1 plus 6 times 0. 6 times 0. Then we shall get to the next. We multiply this row by that column to get the term down here. So it's going to be 4 times 1 plus 11 times 0. So we get to this other term of the matrix. So again, we are going to multiply the upper part, the row, by that column. So it is 9 times 0 plus 6 times 1. Then we have down here, we have 4 times 0 plus 11 times 1. Then after doing the row by column multiplication, we shall get our final answer. So the rest is math. It's going to be 9 times 1, which is 9, plus 6 times, which is 0. Then down here it is 4 plus 0. Then up here is 0 plus 6. Then down here is 0 plus 11. And our final answer here will be 9, 4, 6, 11. Looking at this example, we are being required to multiply this matrix by that matrix. So using our earlier illustration, we are supposed to be multiplying a row by a column. And in this case, we shall follow through this working closely. If you look at this first step here, it is getting this top. It is if you look at this figure is what is giving us this answer. And this answer coming from this figure is as a result of multiplying this top row by that column. Why? Because the answer we want is in the top row and on the left hand side of the column, in the left column. So it means we multiply this by that, which was 3 times 2, then 1 times 4, then 4 times 1 to get this answer. Likewise, for us to be able to get this 15 is positioned in the topmost part of the columns and on the right hand side of the rows. So it means the column we are going to use is supposed to be the top one multiplied by the right hand side of the column. So we got this 15 by saying 3 times 1, which is that, plus 1 times 0 plus 4 times 3 to get that 15. The same here, for us to be able to get this number 12. To get this 12, first of all, it is positioned in the bottom column, but on the left hand side of the column. The left hand side of the column and the bottom row. So it means that if you're multiplying to get this 12, we're supposed to multiply the bottom one, since it's bottom, the bottom column by the right hand side of the right hand column. So it is 5 times 2, which is that, plus 0 times 4, which is that, and then 2 times 1, which is that. And this is what gave us the 12. And also, for us to be able to get this number 11 was the same issue. We're supposed to multiply the bottom row by the right hand side of the column, which is that, to get this, since it is positioned in the bottom row and on the right hand side of the column. So it was 5 times 1 plus 0 times 0 plus 2 times 3 to get this answer. And this is how we get this 14, 15, 12 and 11 as our answer for the multiplication of that. This brings us to the end of this tutorial. Thank you for watching. For more videos, I encourage you to subscribe to this channel and also to share on other platforms. I hope you watch the next video. For Kisembo Academy, this is Arnold Ranga Kuramia.